So when it comes to genuine and actual legitimate healing and transformation, I think many people fall into the trap of misconstruing feeling better about being unwell with actually feeling better. They believe that getting better at walking with a limp is the same thing as actually walking comfortably and normally. And they believe that learning to cope with dysfunction is actually the same thing as having that dysfunction resolved, which it obviously is not. And why I say this is because I'll say things like this to people, or I'll have opinions like this or conversations about therapy or different modalities, and people will be like, "Oh, no, 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 like my person's great. I've been working with them for 10 years." And then I'm like, "Well, then why do you still have all the same problems that you did 10 years ago? You're just more comfortable now with all of those problems, but you still have them, you still deal with them, they're still in your nervous system, and you're not basically able to walk or run comfortably. You're still walking with a limp, all rigid, tight, dysfunction, and disformed," to use that kind of as an illustration. Now, obviously, of course, that's not a bad thing. Feeling more comfortable in general is obviously, you could say, a step in the right direction. And I'm not denigrating that or putting that down or invalidating that in any way. And for some people, it's obviously a necessary part of the process. The problem is what I said at the very beginning, is that when 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years goes by and a person thinks, "Oh, I'm better and I feel so much more comfortable and with this stuff," but they actually still have all the same problems and all of the same issues, if not maybe more so, more health problems, more dysfunctions, more disharmony in their body. It's just like if you went to a weight loss coach and then after 10 years, you didn't lose any weight, but you're like, "Oh no, my person's great. They're really good and the industry is amazing. And how dare you have an opinion about it that's not positive or overtly sunshiny and rainbows?" What I'm suggesting and what I'm putting forth is really just basic results, basic math, basic common sense mechanisms. Yet for some reason, it's met with such resistance and such hostility for asking such fundamental basic questions. And I would just ask people, what is the definition of insanity? What's the definition of delusion? What is the definition of learned helplessness? Because common sense would dictate that the best and most useful application of our inherent critical thought and harsh analytical capacities would be placed upon the most important, impactful, and influential parts of our life. But in actuality, most of the time, the opposite is true. People would beat themselves up over trivial, mundane, minute stuff like, "Oh," but when it comes down to things that actually matter, things that actually really, really, really matter and really make a big difference in their lives, when it comes to therapy, healing, spirituality, and things of this nature, is seem to prefer soft BS over any degree of honesty or reality. Or they would rather avoid a problem rather than even acknowledge it. But it's like, wait, I thought you're into therapy, healing, spirituality, which is inherently solving problems and changing things, but you want to do it in a way that doesn't actually acknowledge problems. So then you can't actually solve them. And you can't actually be honest about anything because you prefer everything to be soft and, light rainbows and, all this kind of like flowery language. So that's an inherent contradiction. So people end up in this weird place where on one hand, they believe that they're already perfect, but they also massively hate themselves at a deep level. So they exist in a state of internal conflict, which of course leaves no other choice but then to be completely disassociated from their experience, disembodied, and operate at the periphery of their experience, because being embodied is so genuinely uncomfortable that they just can't do it. Okay. So then what's the solution to all this? I would say just please refer to my previous 5 videos.